This is our 7th webinar. We've come a long way so far. We've looked at a range of things that are designed to help teachers become more competent, become more confident in remote delivery. We've looked at things to do with the infrastructure, platforms, social media for professional learning. We've looked at the idea of blended learning. We've also looked at something which is key, especially in the remote delivery context, around motivating learners. And we've looked at selecting and designing materials that are suitable, appropriate, accessible, effective for the remote delivery setting. And today what we're going to have a look at under the title of Supporting Parents in Children's Remote Learning is we're going to have a look, if you like, at that audience, which I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel quite strongly that we do not do enough with. And that especially during times of school closure, when children are learning at home, the role of the parents in supporting children, keeping them motivated, keeping them on track, keeping them in line in general, that role is particularly important. So that's why we've selected this topic. It's a topic that many of you have asked us questions about already. Hala's going to be looking really at two fundamental questions in a very practical way, as usual. And those two fundamental questions are really why? Why is it important that we reach out to parents and engage them in the learning process, help them, support them, encourage them? And the next fundamental question, which leads on from the why question, is about, well, if that's the case, if we can see a benefit in doing that, how are we going to do it? Okay then, so without any further discussion, introduction, I'd like to hand over now to Hala, who's going to be talking to us about supporting parents in children's remote learning. Hala.
Thank you very much, John, and welcome everybody to our 7th webinar. I hope you're finding the series useful and relevant. And without further introductions, let's get started right away. As John said, this is number 7 in a series. We've covered a variety of topics, and just a reminder for you guys to do the poll if you haven't done already. And it's a very simple question. Just let us know where are you joining us from. In today's webinar, we've got a list of learning outcomes, our objectives that we're aiming to achieve today. We'll be talking together about why parents should be involved in the remote learning process. And we'll be offering some tips to strengthen the communication between the teachers and the parents. We'll be offering some ideas to involve the parents in facilitating remote learning. And we're going to talk about parents and the children's online safety. And finally, we'll summarize the roles of parents in supporting remote learning. So I'd like to start off with a question for you. I want you to think about your relationship with the parents before and after COVID-19. Think about this form of relationship and tell us in the question and answer box if it has become any different. Your relationship between the parents before and after COVID-19. Has it become any different? Please let us know in the Q&A box. And John, of course, will feed me in with your responses. The picture you can see on the screen is from the New York Times, really, and the building represents a school. And it seems like there are 3 parties raising a child or supporting a child. Perhaps these 3 parties are the teacher, the parents, and the school administration. Did we get any responses on the relationship between parents and teachers, John?
I'm afraid not at the moment. So I think it may be down to you to suggest a few ways in which that relationship may have changed.
Actually,
people are still joining us. Yeah?
All right. The British Council has done a survey back in June this year, and we surveyed 112 teachers from our British Council teacher community Facebook group. And the question was about the communication with parents. And it was, since schools closed and the learning continued remotely, how much communication have you had with the parents of your learners? And the responses were really interesting. 44% of the respondents said that they had less communication than before COVID-19. 32% said they have more communication than before COVID, and 42% thought that the communication remained the same before and after COVID. So it's very interesting. It seems that we have almost equal thirds, equal answers. People had less, had more, or their communication remained the same. Perhaps there are some factors that we're going to discuss today why we got this kind of responses.
We've had one response, Hala, and if this is indicative in any way, that relationship has actually become stronger.
Interesting.
Closure.
Well, it's interesting and indicative indeed. Are we going to build on that for the rest of the webinar? I have another question for you. On the screen now we can see 3 different people: Maria Al-Qasim and Ranjit Desali and Stephen Fry. Now I want you to guess who these people are, where they are from, and what do they do. And did you know any of them by any chance? And let's see what responses do we get through the Q&A box. You can guess. Any responses, John?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. You've challenged our audience today, Hala.
All right, so Maria Al-Qasim is from the United Arab Emirates, and Ranjit is from India, and Stephen Fry is from the UK. So I gave you some clues now. Now, can you guess what they do, what their jobs are? Let's discover this together.
Quite a lot coming in now.
Okay, good.
Okay. So, yeah, I think a lot of you are really on the right track there with Ranjit Singh, Best Teacher Award, 2020 Teacher winner, Indian winner of a prize. So that's pretty good.
Excellent. Nice. Okay, so let's discover what these people do together. Maria Al-Qasim is a parent who lives in the Emirates, and she's also a columnist, and she writes for the Arab News. And she wrote a piece a couple of months ago, and she was talking about her experience as a parent in teaching a child online, or the homeschooling after the school closure. She thinks that teaching a child is one of the biggest struggles parents can ever face during the crisis of COVID. And she also believes that it takes a unique set of skills to educate a child, and the teachers have spent years and years honing these skills, which the parents don't necessarily have. And they're trying their best as parents, but they will always be less able to transfer the knowledge to children because simply they are not teachers and they are not trained as teachers. One more issue is the difficulty to simulate the same learning environment the children usually have at school. In addition to that, many parents could be illiterate or have poor English or received no formal education or even has humble or basic digital skills. And with this, it makes the situation even more challenging to help the children with their learning. Ranjit Singh Desali, the teacher from India, who you amazingly figured out that he won the Global Teacher Prize 2020. In July, actually, this year, the Varkey Foundation formed what we call the Teacher Task Force, and this Teacher Task Force was required to lead on a specific task, which is the role of parents in blended learning. And the task force really helped to give global insights on how the parents actually can support with the remote learning. Ranjit in himself think that the ideal way to engage parents in the learning process is through designing online activities, but tailor-made activities specifically for parents where they have defined roles. And to give parents a sense of participation in decision-making, he created a series of online activities where parents were required to spend just 1 hour every day to help their children complete a specific task. Ranjit Singh calls this hour the hour of life, and you will know why now. To make the parents comfortable doing the task, he sets very clear instructions on what the parents are required exactly to do in that hour. And through this hour of life, both the parents and their children learn life skills and the practical knowledge that they can apply in day-to-day life. So this is what Ranjit Singh did in his village back in India. What happened to Ranjit this month is incredible. As you said, back in July, he didn't know he's going to win the Global Teacher Prize. So let's watch Stephen Fry, that's the national British treasure, introducing the awards and how Ranjit responded to the news.
It's my distinct privilege and pleasure to be helping present the 2020 Global Teacher Prize, the top 10 finalists of the Global Teacher Prize 2020. Here they are, joining us from every corner of the planet, from Italy, Brazil, Vietnam, the United Kingdom, the USA, South Africa, Nigeria, India, Malaysia, and South Korea. And the winner of the Global Teacher Prize 2020 is Ranjit Desali from India. Oh, look, there's your whole extended family now. It's wonderful. Oh, my dear fellow, I can see how moved you are. It's my
So you can see now that Ranjit wasn't able to achieve his success or carry on with his projects in his village in India without collaborating with the parents, without setting up online activities where the parents could be involved and have defined roles. I hope you're inspired as much as I am, because this is really an inspiring stories to all teachers all over all the world, really. So why do you think parents should be involved? In ideas? So Ranjit realized that he wouldn't be able to work or achieve anything without collaborating with the parents, especially that the communication with the parents have been disrupted after the school closure. The parents don't go to school, the teachers don't go to school. So he made sure that he keeps the communication active and effective so that he can achieve his work. So why do you think, apart from that reason, why do you think parents should be involved? Any responses, John?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
All right, but perhaps we can get some responses as we go. So let's have a look at what the research says. It has shown that the parental involvement in any child's education actually improves their educational achievements. And specifically, it makes them stay longer in school, and it encourages an overall positive development in the child's personality. And that was a research published by Mapp and Henderson in 2002. But due to the COVID crisis and the school closure, it has become even more important for parents to assume that they're going to play the role of surrogate teachers. Why? One reason is to ensure the continuity of the children's learning, because schools have stopped their learning mostly at home. Even after the reopening of the schools, they go to schools 2 or 3 days a week, and they continue their learning at home. So there must be a method, there must be a mechanism, a way to ensure that the children are learning and they can to learn even at home.
And some comments coming in from Shahir, who I should say correctly identified the role of Stephen Fry in this as well. Before
really, okay.
Yeah, he very much agrees with what you're saying about supporting kids to learn effectively, and the research evidence base that you're referring to. Then that's something that Shahir also feels strongly about.
Nice.
But it's
Thank you, Shahir, and glad to see you here. And greetings to our colleagues in Yemen. Parents, especially in remote learning, can be an important source of motivation. You know, children sit at their desk at home looking at screen, and their motivation might drop due to some factors, and having the parents around could be a good source of motivating their children to, you know, to crack on this new mode of learning. With all of the news coming from the school and all of this flow of information, the emails, the WhatsApp messages, and the classroom communications and news, parents can really be helpful and supportive if they are abreast of happenings in the school community. They can be an additional source of information. They can even help the children checking the news and following up on the emails coming from the schools without having the children to worry about juggling things around learning, doing homework, doing the research, and also checking the news coming from the school. So they can be news checker, or, you know, the news collector from the schools, and they can help the students stay up to date. Also, they can be a second pair of hands for the teachers. They can review the assignment instructions. I mean, the teacher can give instructions during the lesson, but the learner or the child still needs, you know, somebody else to repeat the instructions for them. But you know that the teacher's time is limited and the teacher is not available 24/7. So it could be very useful if the parents play that role and they review the assignment instructions again to their children. They can even help navigate the online applications with the kids. They can even help the kids, especially the young learners, troubleshoot technical issues. Especially issues which have electricity involved, you know, so parents can really be supportive in that.
Some comments coming in now, Hala,
Yeah.
that support that. You know, Shahir was saying parents can help kids learn effectively. More things, parents are a big part of the learning process. And finally, around motivation as well, that they can help learners not to get their children, rather, not to get lost.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that that our teachers joining us in today's webinar are fully aware of the importance of the parents and the importance of the role the parents can play to support the remote learning process. That's really good to hear. In the next part of the webinar, we're going to tackle how to support the parents so that they support their learners and support us as teachers in the remote learning. And we're going to cover three main areas. Actually, we're going to cover the communications between teachers and the parents, the involvement of parents, and the issues around online safety. How to get started with communications. You need to find out how you're going to communicate with the parents. Is it through emails? Do you have their email addresses? Do you need to contact the school to get the emails? Is it through phone numbers, phone calls, WhatsApp messages? Do you need to set up a WhatsApp group? Think about that. And if you can, if possible, try to communicate with the parents in their first language. There's no point if you insist on speaking English and you know the parents do not speak English. Why insisting on that? Just to speak in their first language. Again, think about the method of communication. Is it going to be emails? Do they have emails? Do they have internet to check emails? Is it going through text messages? Are you going to make some phone calls? But we advise you to have the first phone call or the first email or the first WhatsApp voice note to assign that, to introduce yourself and say hello and ask how everybody's doing, how the parents are doing and the children. Then make sure you tell them what you will do. Tell them about your plan. Do not surprise them. They need to be informed in advance. They need to prepare their life, manage logistics and all of that. And also tell them how often will you send the messages or make the calls. Is it every Thursday? Is it every weekend? Is it twice a week, or what exactly? And when they can reply to you and what time you can be around, you're available. Is it the morning, afternoon, evening? What is the best time in the day for you and for them? Now, how to set up the learning? You can send the parents a basic list of the topics you want them to cover. Or the list of topics you're covering anyway, so that they can also support with activities at home. Use simple language when you talk to them. Don't use technical terms. And tell the parents about the topics that you think can connect things at home together. Things from the syllabus or the curriculum you're teaching that connect to things in and around the home and the family. It will be easy for them to practice this or to do these activities together. If the families have textbooks at home and you know that, try to suggest sections in the textbook where they can do together with their children without the need of a teacher. You know where this is in the textbook, so suggest that for the parents. Now you've started the communication, you've set up the plan of learning. How would you sustain the communication? How would you keep it going? I feel like you have something to say, John.
Yes, I was just going to say, before moving on to the communication, I was just going to ask for your opinion on, to what extent do you think in these conversations that you might have with parents about the content of what their children are learning, that in some way that you invite them to offer suggestions about things that might be of interest, or whether you think it's better to be directive? Because I suppose in the face-to-face environment, parents don't really have much influence over what happens in the classroom because they're not there. Whereas at home, of course, in supporting children's learning, they are there.
Absolutely. So you said it, John, the environment has it changed. So when they are in the class, they are alone, they don't have the parents. So the learning environment here is the class, and perhaps it's a home, but primarily it's the class and the school. But they're sitting now at home, they're learning there, and the surroundings are different. So I think the content here is negotiated under the guidance of the teacher. So the teacher can suggest the topics, and the parent can suggest different ways of doing the activity. So if there's an activity about interviewing somebody about their summer plans, for example, the parent can suggest different ways of doing the interview. So they can suggest either if the child interviews a parent, or the child interviews a sibling, or if the child can go online and do some research and get some tips around summer holidays in their local area. So because they control the resources at home, I think they must have a say in how to do the activity somehow. Not totally independent from the teacher, but I think we have to give them this space to express different ways and facilities of managing or facilitating the learning.
I think so. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? And just again, a quick question before moving on to the communication aspect. In your experience, have parents seen this as an opportunity for themselves to learn as well? Not just to learn more about what their children are doing, but actually to learn things themselves, that it's an opportunity for them.
Well, I think so. From my experience, and my sister is a parent actually, and she's got a child at school who's doing homeschooling now and learning remotely. Parents didn't know much, for example, about online safety, and they didn't know much about video conferencing platforms like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and they're learning all of that as the teachers and the students learn. And they started to think about now managing the children's timetable more. So when the children used to go to the school, they have their timetable, and after the school day finishes, they come back home, they do homework, and that's it. But now things are more fluid and the hours are more flexible, and the parents now are assigned an extra role of managing this flow of learning and the timetable actually. So they started to think more and learn more about spreading the tasks or distributing the tasks, and prioritizing the learning activities, and prioritizing content, and finding ways of organizing content and ways to access it on the internet, which resources are reliable and credible, which resources aren't. And on our Facebook page, the Teaching English Facebook page, we started to see parents asking questions. The Facebook page is for teachers and ELT practitioners, but we started to see parents coming and asking questions. And I don't think they knew the way to Teaching English Facebook page before COVID. So yes, everybody is learning new things during this crisis. Perhaps this is the good side of it. So as they say, every cloud has got a silver lining or something. So moving on to continuing and sustaining the communication between the teachers and the parents, you need to plan and you need to communicate this plan to the parents. You need to decide how much time it will take you to communicate and what times in the day you're available for communication, because simply you can find your WhatsApp like flooded by messages and texts, and everybody wants an answer from you. So please specify what time you're going to respond to the messages. Before you send your messages to the parents, check them, read them. Are they clear enough? If the parents who are not teachers receive them? Do they understand what to do? Do not send too many messages. Make sure you understand that the parent is dealing with at least 5-6 teachers. Perhaps they have 2-3 children at home. So imagine how much work they have to deal with. And try to find out, this comes back actually to John's point and the question from you guys today about the content and how far the content is negotiable. So find out from the parents what the children enjoy doing at home and try to suggest activities around that, relevant to that. So if children at home enjoy learning by doing, by using their hands, suggest something relevant. If they enjoy drawing, suggest something around that. If they enjoy listening to songs and music, pick that up and suggest something around it. You know, anyways, everybody's at home listening to a TV program or a radio program. If you know something interesting to support English language learning, a radio or a TV program, suggest that to the parents so that they can watch it together or listen it together with their children. Now we're moving to another area. I'm not sure if John has got something to throw at me.
Well, if you don't mind me throwing some things at you that have come in from our participants, there's a couple of interesting points that have been made. And the first one, I think, really picks up a little bit on what many teachers throughout the series have been talking about, which is to do with cheating and to do with, how do you know in the remote delivery setting that it is actually your learners that are giving their answers? And the same question about parents. There is a strong desire, I would say, if my wife is anything to go by, on the part of parents to demonstrate that their kids are really good at something. So there's a question in there around working with parents so that they're supporting their kids rather than doing the work instead of their kids. I think that's a really interesting point, and maybe at the stage where you're involving parents, that's something I suppose that you would probably want to stress. And another question, maybe you could come back to this at the end, I'm not sure, and you've touched on it already. It's about, you're talking about using the mother tongue when communicating with parents, but also about the mother tongue in relation to materials in general. But I think that's a big point. So the first question, I think, is a good one. Working with your children or working instead of your children?
Let's not forget the default situation. So before COVID and before the schools are closed, were the parents doing the work for children, or were they supporting and were they keen on their children's improvement and success, or were they doing the work for the children? So let's not get the things mixed up, and make sure when you communicate with the parents that everything stays the same. We're keen on their development and learning rather than getting assignments done and issuing certificates. This is one thing. The other thing is, remember that the parents are facilitators. They facilitate learning and they pick up the task after you finish it. So the task goes back to you again as a teacher. So you're going to check the work again in your live lessons or on your asynchronous platform. And I'm sure you've got a range of ways to check if the learners or the children are actually learning something. So it's not just the exercise they do or the gaps that they fill or the MCQ questions they answer. I'm sure you have other formative ways of assessing the learning, and you can double check if the children are really picking up any learning. Third, again, try to communicate this to the parents that it's a good opportunity for everybody to develop new skills and making the children more digitally aware and more active as digital citizens and more independent learners through the crisis, through offering them the resources and open the access to them, but also being around to support them. So I think it's all about talking and raising awareness and setting clear objectives, with you playing your essential role as a teacher, making sure that your learners are learning as normal. We're moving now to the next section in the webinar, which is around involvement, how to involve the parents, and this is where the practical part comes, and we're going to suggest some practical activities the parents can do with their children. Model everything. So it could be different for the parents to facilitate learning. So think about recording yourself in videos and provide them with video examples to demonstrate an activity you would do so that the parents can follow your steps. Examples: film yourself or video record yourself while reading aloud and asking questions. Video record yourself while demonstrating a writing activity or using the phonemic chart or how to do phonetic spelling. Video record yourself while you're setting up an engineering or a craft challenge where where parents can use everyday objects from around the home, and make sure that it's not perfect, it's not absolute success, but mess around with it first so that you demonstrate that it's okay to to fail doing this. And give them examples or set a model for them for exploration, experimentation, and failure as natural parts of the learning process. It's okay to experiment, it's okay to fail, and the parents do not have to have all the answers to be perfect facilitators for their children. Be direct. When you record your videos, speak directly to the parents and address them. Use words like, "Dear parents, I hope everyone is okay," so that they know this message is for them. Explain your reasons behind your strategies, give your rationale. They need to know why you're doing this. For somebody who's not from the profession, who's not a teacher, they might find something weird or unjustified or makes no sense to them. So justify and explain your strategies, please. Acknowledge the difficult work they're doing and express your gratitude for their efforts, because it's difficult and teachers appreciate this because it's really helpful for the teacher. Provide tips for them on how to take care of themselves, and you can also direct the parents themselves towards resources where they can find mindfulness activities to relax and practice yoga. So, try to create this bond that you're there to support them. You're not there to dictate order for them, or they're not working for you. They're not your employees or something, but you're there to support and to collaborate with them. Another important point really is around equity and accessibility. When you suggest activities to the parents to do at home, try not to overwhelm them with resources that they cannot buy or resources that they do not have access to. Try to focus more on the activities that require non-specific or even no materials at all. Give examples. All right, so one example is the I Spy game. It's a game the families can play together with their children to promote their critical thinking and deduction skills. So the parent gives the child clues about the function of an object, or what the object doesn't do, or what the object is located in the house or in the room, and the child has to go and find that object. or the storytelling. That's another example activity where the parents or the caregivers or the guardians can create a compelling and suspenseful story off the top of their heads without needing a book or a paper to write down on, and the children can themselves be the storytellers, or they can even take part in the stories by using different voices or miming the voices of animals or something, or characters in the story. There is another example where the children can be detectives and the families or the parents can intentionally hide specific letters, numbers, shapes, or something around the house, and the children need to go and find them if they pay close attention. They can together work on an engineering project or architecture challenge where they can bring items from around the home and put them together, like build a grocery shop, for example, or build or set up a kitchen, or or role play a restaurant, or people are having a meal at a restaurant or something. Writing and drawing, you can also ask them to write on blank paper and draw things as an activity. And there is also, if they have internet and if they have the proper equipment, you can suggest if they can download Kids Doodle, where they can doodle and draw and color things together. Something else falls under equity, and also it's important, we've touched upon it now, it's the language, the parents' language. It's either speaking no English or speaking poor English, and the literacy skills. Be mindful of that, please.
Some very interesting comments coming in, Hala, which which are essentially, I suppose, around time and workload and motivation, both for teachers and also for parents, of course, and that there's an investment in time that's required on the part of the teacher. This is, to some extent, a new audience for some people to reach out to parents. So that's one aspect of time investment and time commitment. And then the other aspect is the parents themselves. The comments coming in that that if you've got many children, you've got responsibilities that go beyond your children. Of course, you're working, or so there's that balance both for teachers and for parents. It's a really important issue, isn't it? And I think one approach might be that you say, well, parents are too busy to get involved, or teachers are too busy to reach out to parents, and you might think, well, we can't do anything. But I think that's the deficit model, the deficit way of looking at things, really. I don't know what your opinion is.
Again, it's either we say the teachers are too busy to do it alone, then they pass the bucket to the parents. Then the parents will say we're too busy to do it alone, then they pass the bucket to the teachers, and so on. So I think in the absence of that balance would cause the problem. If you don't involve the parents, you'll end up doing the whole thing on your own. And if the parents do not involve the teachers or do not communicate with the teachers, they will end up doing the whole thing on their own. So I think it's inevitable to start communicating together, the teachers and the parents, so that we have this balance or something near to that balance. Teachers will have something to do and parents will have something to do, and by doing this, work is easier a little bit, rather than just keep throwing the ball into the other person's court. It's spreading this amount of work, and I think it's easier to do it this way rather than being obsessed that the other person should do the work. Then you will get the same reaction back. The last point actually, and it goes back to a question about integrity and cheating and evidence of learning, is to celebrate with the parents, and again make this point clear to the parents when you communicate with them. Parents can show evidence of their children's learning, and please invite and encourage them to do this. They can post a video, they can post a picture of how their children are doing great. And when they do this, it doesn't stop there. Please provide positive feedback and praise the family's effort in facilitating the learning. And it doesn't stop there. And also suggest next steps. So they've set the learning activity, they did the activity, they provided evidence of success or learning, you gave feedback, you praised their efforts. It's time now for you to sustain this, to make sure this continues in the future. So suggest what's next, what next steps they can do to keep the learning going. I don't think we have time to show this, to play this video, but this is an interesting video task that you can share with the parents themselves. And again, this is back to the point that learners can learn with their children during this crisis. This is a video by Larry Ferlazzo, and he gives 7 tips for parents to support remote learning. The video is useful in many ways. One, it gives you a model on how to record a video if you want to address parents and give them tips and suggestions. This is a good example for you to follow as teachers. 2, it could be shared as a task for the parents themselves, so you can send them the video, then you can download the transcript from YouTube, and you can change the transcript a little bit so you have gaps, or you can provide true and false statements or MCQ questions. Then send the video with the task to the parents and get them to do it as a learning activity for the parents themselves. Then they can get back to you and tell you about their own experience in online learning or remote learning, the content of the video itself, the tips for parents, do they agree, disagree. So it's a good example really of getting parents involved through video tasks. Another thing you can really share with the parents is the wonderful British Council website, the Learn English Kids. You know, we have 2 sites, Learn English, and this is for adults, and Learn English Kids, this is for young learners and teens. And there is a fully dedicated section for parents. There is a wealth of activities and ideas where the parents can do this with their children at home, and it's specifically for COVID-19. It's called the COVID-19 support for parents. So please share this wonderful resource with the parents. It will keep them busy doing activities with the children at home. The issue around online safety is quite important too. And there was a recent survey where 2,000 American parents responded to questions around their experience this year with remote learning and their worries around it. And 76% of them said they're worried about their child's online safety while distance learning. That's why we think it's good to raise awareness, the parents' awareness of the online risks. At least they become aware of it. So check they are aware of the online risks. It's a shared responsibility. You know the online risks, but also they are partners and they need to know the risks as well. If you have a safeguarding processes, it's either you developed yourself or something your school has given you. Please share this safeguarding protocol or online safety process or procedure with the parents. And if you have something like PDF files, share it with them. One of the things you can tell the parents about is when their learners logging online to attend an online class or something, advise them to just log in with their first name and the first initial of their last name, just to protect their personal data and to reduce identification of individuals. If you think you need to record a lesson, or if your school is asking you to record a lesson, please make sure you tell the parents in advance, you get their consent, and make them aware when the recording is happening and who have access to it, who will be seeing this recording, where their children might appear on the screen or have their names showed on the screen or something. So we have covered now 3 main areas, and it's good really if we summarize the different roles the parents can play in the remote learning process. And this is a quote that I found really from on the VAR-Key Foundation website. The demands of the education system in the new normal, this is the new normal, it's new, but it's going to be the normal lifestyle, require parents to play a multifaceted role. It's not just one role, it's not just helping them with the homework after they come back from school. It's a multiple roles really in minimizing the impact of the pandemic on 2 things: the children's academic performance and their well-being. They need to play like a very strategic role on 2 strategic aspects: academic performance and well-being. So can you tell me now, from what we said, what are the different roles the parents can play in the remote learning process? I'll give you the first one as an example. Good communicator. Of course, they need to communicate their concerns to the teachers, and they need to inform the teacher if their children have any disabilities, any learning difficulties, so that the teacher can prepare for that, can plan lessons for them. What else? What other roles the parents can play? And perhaps John can tell me if we get something in the chat box.
I certainly will.
Box. Thank you.
While we're waiting for comments to come in, and I'm not looking for an answer to this question, I think, because it's such a big one. I think one of the words that often goes with role is the word responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, when we were talking before about workload and people being too busy, teachers and parents, I think it's pertinent to that question, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, who is responsible for progress and learning of the child? Is it the child themselves? Is it the parents ultimately? Is it the is it the school?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a very big question, and it's a question that we're often asking ourselves, isn't it? And you know, lots of different answers to that. Yeah. Of course.
So another. Okay.
One comment has come in. Yes, observer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. Observer. Yeah, that's a good one. Active caretaker, and again, it's the parent's responsibility to make sure the child has a proper working space at home, and also back to the point of observing, the children shouldn't be left unattended while they're online. The parents should be around, making sure that the children do not drift away listening to songs on YouTube or visiting websites they shouldn't visit, or, you know, so they should be around and shouldn't leave their children unattended. Routine builder, we mentioned something around managing the timetable and setting up routines and making sure that their children are coping with the workload and consistently responding to the school task or the teacher tasks. vigilant guardian. Again, this goes back to the online safety and monitoring the progress and monitoring the academic integrity. They do not copy and paste the answers. And a friendly teacher, helping the children, especially the young one, digest and absorb the amount of knowledge remotely, that repeat instructions for a difficult assignment, and also inform the children around hygiene and staying safe, and dealing with a virus and dealing with a global pandemic. This all falls under the hat of being a friendly teacher.
And that, I think, coincides with some of the comments that are coming in now about parent as observer, as listener, as motivator, as evaluator of their kids' behavior and performance, presumably, and an organizer.
Nice.
So very similar to the roles that you were suggesting.
Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. We've covered why and the importance of getting parents involved. We've given tips on strengthening the communication and involvement and raising awareness around online safety. And we've summarized the different roles or the different hats that the parents should be wearing in supporting remote learning. I want you to read an article published on the Teaching English website around helping parents or caregivers support remote learning at home, and another exciting article on Edutopia about empowering families in distance learning, specifically for early childhood, this specific age group. And there is a blog by Larry Ferlazzo where I got the video from. Please go and watch it. Another extensive article on keeping learners safe online on the Teaching English, with lots of ideas for the teachers as well as for the parents. And I think that's all from me. We finished on time, almost on time.
Fabulous stuff. Thank you so much indeed, Hala. That was really interesting.